Hi, my name's Marina. I'm bisexual.
Hi, I'm Lucille.
I'm Tom.
We're Katie's parents.
Hi, I'm Eric. I am Katie's straight friend. one of the only.
One of the only. There's very few.
I am an ally
An ally, a straight
to
ally.
the gay community.
Hi, I'm Cassie. I'm Katie's sister. I'm a straight ally. I am Katie. Hello. My relationship to the community is that I am the L in the LGBT. I am a lesbian.
What does being a part of this community mean to you?
Great question. It's very much about like, I don't know exactly how to explain what it means to me because it's definitely more of a feeling than I'm also going to be looking at you guys. Because I can't look into
That's okay.
It's just about like finding a place where I can belong in that aspect of my life because like while I'm like out to my parents and stuff, like it's still something that they don't talk about and it's something I love to talk about. So it's being a part of the community is just a place where I can be very open about that, not having to worry about censoring myself around somebody, and just being accepted for that, which is really nice.
Being a part of the LGBTQ plus community means that I have a group of people who I know will constantly have my back. I know I have my family, I know I have my friends, but when all else fails, I know I'm a part of something that means more than flesh and blood. It means something is there for me when I need it and if I need it. There will be people there for me till the end of time, essentially.
Do you believe sexual orientation is a choice?
No.
No?
I have this discussion with a lot of people, and people who think it is, I'm like, man, if only those people who have been killed for their sexuality could have just chosen to be straight, like that would have been so much easier, right? But no, they just took the hard route and got killed for it. Wow, what a quinky dink. I don't know, whenever people ask me that question, I'm like, no one chooses to be like killed or beaten up or discriminated for that, and if they could have, they would have chosen to be straight because it's easier. So anyone that thinks it's a choice, they're lying to themselves.
No. Just love who you want.
No. You come out the womb as who you are. Whether you're straight, whether you're gay, whether you're anything within that spectrum.
Flaming gay.
Yeah.
Alright, have you ever been faced with discrimination?
Not outwardly.
No.
Like no one has been like no one's ever called me like bigot or anything, which I'm grateful for. But it's very, and like I have very supportive friends and like my family, even though they don't talk about it, it's not like that they're about to kick me out of the house. They're still very loving and whatnot. But I suppose the discrimination comes in when you look at the fact that I'm a Christian and like being around Christians who don't really understand what it's like to be LGBT, and have them be like, oh, it's a sin, oh, the Bible says this, oh, and it's not technically discrimination because that's a part of faith. It's not really. I think it's bullshit. But it wears you down, and it's like, it's the fear of you can't come up to these people despite them being very close friends to you now at this point, and the worry that if I ever told these people, like the young adults group that I lead, if I ever told them, then they would look at me differently. And it's a community that I love and I don't want to give up, so I'm not, and it's not something that I have to tell them, so I'm okay with not. But if they ever found out, I'd probably have to leave that group because I don't think that they would look at me the same way or treat me the same way.
I was bullied briefly in high school for being gay. It's nobody should be discriminated against for anything really. It's not okay to be discriminated against just for being gay or being an individual with disabilities or someone who is of color or someone who isn't the social norm, it's not okay. Being brought up not only in a church community, but also in the military community means that there are certain like views that certain groups of people will have on certain things, and they see things in a certain light that not everybody will see it. And you have to realize that just because one person sees it that way doesn't mean everybody sees it that way. For high school, I went to, not even just high school, for a brief period in middle school and high school. They were both Catholic schools, so being LGBTQ wasn't really spoken of. There were a few people who were out, but not a lot. There wasn't any straight gay alliance at our school. There wasn't really any resources for us to go to and talk about this. Even when going to like school counselors, and if something like this was to be brought up, they wouldn't know how to talk about it with the kids. They weren't sure how to like guide them in the right direction of anything like this. They just went what was off of like their set like list of like, this is what the Bible says, this is what we should do, this is what the school curriculum is, we have to stick with this. We can't go off of that and be like, go do this, be this, and all that. And then also with that, we didn't get the Straight Gay Alliance until my last year of high school, and even then it wasn't anything that it should have been, mostly because the school district was a Catholic district, so they didn't approve of anything that went on with those programs. Our principal was the first principal to have gender-neutral bathrooms in the complete district, which I am so thankful for, because that is a huge step in the right direction. However, that was his last year, and as soon as that year was done, I'm almost positive that they put the bathrooms back to the gendered bathrooms. So that's how the Catholic system works, apparently.
Because I'm a Christian, whenever I go out to the LGBT community, lots of people are super like accepting that, and they think it's cool, and they ask me a lot of questions. They're like, "That's cool that you're like, even though you're bi, that you still like can find a place where you love Jesus." Because a lot of people will leave Christianity because of the discrimination they face from the church. So people will find that cool for me to be able to have that. However, people will have looked down on me for that, and have looked down on my faith for that, because they feel like because they've been discriminated against by the church, that like if you're queer you can't be part of any faith because it's against us, and I don't believe that. So it's not technically discrimination, like no one's ever outwardly been that way to me, but it's the hints and the pieces.
Being united, how does that affect your view on the community?
I don't know. Well, I guess, when I think of the word united, I think of, literally being together. You're one person, you're united as one. So whether you come into the church as a black person, whether you come in as a disabled person, whether you come in as, person with disabilities, or a person within the LGBTQ plus community, your family, you're united there. I don't really see it a certain way. You're accepted there, you're loved there. God doesn't look at you any differently.
Now, Dad, and Mom, I guess, because you both had backgrounds with church, how does this affect your beliefs?
Doesn't affect my
It doesn't affect my beliefs.
Because we're united, they've accepted the community for years. There is no.
I grew up Anglican, and Anglican is not as free as United Church. However, over a period of time, I've developed my own sense of faith in what I believe. So I don't think that religion is something that really makes me feel a different way about the community.
Is there any difference between having a child who identifies as straight and one who identifies as gay?
I've never seen any difference other than it's obviously a little bit more difficult for you because it is a more in the light type of community. When you go out what is normal, and I use quotation because it's everybody's view is what they see as normal. When you're outside of that, it's harder. It's a harder life. And when you came out to us, I was happy for you because you were being you. However, I know that you're going to have more difficulty.
There's a lot of challenges.
Yeah. But we know that you're strong, and we know that with your sister, who is also a strong woman, who is straight, but you both have a very solid base, so we're not worried. We know that you'll make the right decisions.
Do you have any advice for other parents?
Just treat your child as your child. Love them for who they are.
They're still your child. They're still your child. They'll always be your child, no matter what happens. It would be the same as if they were, I don't know, petty thief. They would still be your child. You still have to love them. You still have to try to be there for them and raise them as best that you can. It's. I shouldn't say that it's the same, but it's basically the same. In that you have to help people understand that you guys are just looking for the same thing. Help.
Love and support.
As a sibling to someone who is in the LGBT community, how do you think other siblings should help their sibling feel comfortable with coming out?
It just made you cooler. I've always been supportive of Katie, with you. Before you knew exactly what you were, after your many tries of coming out of the closet. But, if you were straight, that's cool, great. But, I think you coming out as gay is just 10 times cooler. And I think other siblings should respect, their siblings coming out and, just treat them like, you would any other sibling or any other person. I guess I showed support with you. Like, I'm interested in, RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm interested in learning about more of your culture, understanding literally all the types of people that are within your community. I think I'm consistently asking you, what is this flag? What is that flag? I don't know them all, but I'm interested. I'm invested, and I think that's how other siblings, other family members should be. They should, take the time to try and understand more of what the community is all about. And you're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to feel scared for your sibling. Hell, I feel scared for you all the time. And I probably could rant about that forever. So.
After I came out, how did our relationship change?
Pretty sure it made it a lot closer. Before you came out, I knew there was something going on. I didn't want to assume what was going on, but I knew you were in a place that, clearly wasn't awesome, you weren't comfortable. I knew when you came out that I wasn't going to see you any differently. And I feel like we were going to be able to talk about a lot more. Well, we wouldn't have to fight over guys, so like that's cool. But we got more honest with each other, but it has never like separated us in a sense.
Who was the first person you told? And why did you tell him?
It took me a long time to find out I was bi, so like, I think how it happened is that I thought I was asexual in high school. I was like, no thank you. And then Katie told me she was gay, and I was like, that's neat. And then I kind of started evaluating my own sexuality and realizing ace doesn't really line up. And I'm like, Marina, what's up? So I can't remember. It might have been you. Do you think it was you?
I think so.
Okay. Because that would make sense. Because I didn't tell my mom until years later. And I didn't tell a lot of my close friends until years. So I'm thinking it was you.
Okay.
Me and you two like, yo, I'm gay. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Kind of moment.
So am I, bitch. So am I.
Like, what? So, that's hilarious, actually.
Is there anything you would tell your younger self?
You're not ace, you dumbass. It's okay to want to have dick. Sorry, that's so inappropriate. Cassie, I'm so sorry. Let's see, when I was younger, it's very weird because there's like, definitely there are points in my life where I'm like, damn, that's a gay moment, and that was definitely me like crushing on that girl really hard. Like third grade was an interesting time. But I guess the only thing I would tell my younger self is that like it's okay that it takes a while for me to figure myself out. Like I think it was grade 11 was when I was like, yes, this is the identity I want to settle on. That feels right for me. This was also the thing that we talked about at Pride. No, I can't remember like a good answer that I could rip from there. But God still loves you. I went through this whole thing where I was just like, if I'm gay, I can't love God, and God won't love me. Of course, that's not true. God has bigger fish to fry than us homosexuals and bisexuals. So I would just give that reaffirming message that like God loves you. It doesn't matter what other people say about you, and that's never going to change. And that people will support you, and it's okay. You don't have to like hide that part of yourself or be like wary of it in any sense. So.
Well, thank you, Marina.
No problem. Thank you.
What difficulties did you face having to come out? Like, what were your struggles on the journey to get there?
It took me many years to figure out what was going on with me exactly. I wasn't sure if I was gay, I wasn't sure if I was straight. At one point I thought I was bisexual. I wasn't sure who I was by any means. I wasn't sure of my sexuality. I wasn't sure who I was as a person. I wasn't sure of anything. And I didn't know how to deal with that. And I went into a state of depression during this time. And it just completely wiped out who I was as a person for a brief time. But eventually I started realizing that I can't go on in life not being who I am and not realizing that there are people out there who will support me and who will help me when I need it. And when I came out, the first person I came out to was one of my close friends, Leith. I came out to him long before I even told my family. I came out to him in grade 10, I believe. And he was the first person I told because at that point he and I were inseparable, and I knew that he would be the one to be like, okay, that's cool. Do you want to go to McDonald's now? But after that, once I decided I was comfortable enough, and after I came out to a few of my friends, once I was comfortable enough to come out to my family, at that point, I called a family meeting because because back then we didn't just sit down and say how we were feeling. We weren't at that point quite yet. So I called a family meeting. I sat everybody down, and they were all like, "Okay, like, what's happening?" And I just sat there, started crying, and I just said the 2 words that I never thought I'd say out loud was, "I'm gay." And they literally just like, "Okay, sure." That's cool. But yeah, it was a long journey, and I didn't think I would make it to the end of it, or as far as I did, so I'm glad to be where I am today.
What does pride mean to you?
I just worked Pride today, so now I'm just like so happy. Pride is just a time to be in love with who you are. If you can't love yourself, how the hell are you supposed to love somebody else? Can I get an amen? Amen. Thank you. But it's just a time to like love others and love yourself and be supported and give support from all different sides. And also remember the history of how long it took to get here. This is like the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, I think. So just remembering that. And also like interacting with people part of the community, because sometimes not everyone is as outwardly gay as they are at Pride, which makes Pride so magical in the sense that everyone is so proud to like display who they are on their sleeve or on a pin or with a flag as a cape. So it's just so nice to like feel like you're not alone, because sometimes, especially when you grow up in a small town community, you're like, I'm the one singular gay, or I'm the only person that knows what it's like to be bisexual, or I might be the only trans person. But then you go to Pride and you're like, of course that's not true. I grew up in a small town, so of course I didn't see that, but now I know that there's so many other people who experience this and I'm not alone. So it's very about togetherness in that sense too.
Why do you think Pride is an event?
Because you have to be recognized somehow. There's not a lot of acceptance or whatever in just normal society. You have to have your own, well, hopefully not in the future, but for now you have a subgenre of events. Recognition.
Pride started after the Stonewall event, and that was a big riot, a big like protest essentially for the LGBT community. And after that, we just kept celebrating the community, trying to be more accepted into everybody's lives. We want to be able to be like, hey, we're here, we're still human, we're a part of everything. We're in your workplace, we're in your everyday life, but you just don't see it. And we're not any different from anybody else. And I feel like Pride is just a way for us as a community to get together and be like, you're not alone. You have other people who are going through the same thing that you are, and you should be able to be proud of who you are.
Ow, it hurt! No! I have a camera in my hand! Oh, maybe. Thank you! Ready? Oh, no way, I'm not climbing this. Alright. Katie, I'm ready.